Voice teacher here at Conservatory of the Ozarks with a dirty screen. So this is for Kyle. Do you want to be on the camera or not really?
I don't care. It
Okay.
can't be you too.
There might be some spots where you'll want to hold it so I can.
Okay.
And maybe I'll write some things down sometimes. Okay, so the first thing I want to tell you that I want you to like memorize is the definition of an interval. So an interval is the distance between two pitches. I usually say it 3 times. An interval is the distance between two pitches.
Distance between two pitches is an interval.
An interval is the distance between two pitches. If you can remember all of those words,
An
which
interval
I think
is the distance between two pitches.
Yes. So an interval only can measure the different distance between two pitches, not more than 2.
Okay.
Only 2.
Okay.
And so, actually, maybe we can like flip this and you can hold it so you can see what you need to see.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So, here are 2 pitches. We can see we always start counting on the first pitch and finish counting on the second pitch. So this is 1, 2. That's a second.
Okay.
This is 1, 2, 3. That's a third. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
And this would be a 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and then octave. Octave would be from
C to C or
C, or
G to G
from whichever
or-
letter to the next
Okay.
letter name. So
Octave.
I'll just tell you something kind of interesting that you don't really need to know, but this A here is A4, right? Because it's 1, 2,
Starts
3,
with
4, 4th pitch on the piano. This pitch vibrates at 440 times per second. So when your piano is tuned, you will ask your tuner, oh, did you tune it to A440? If you hear the oboe playing at the beginning of an orchestra concert, you hear, ah, and then you hear like all the violins go, ah, make a bunch of noise, and then they stop, and then the oboe goes again, ah, and then you hear like all the brass players, right? So that's the tuning pitch in Western civilization, A440.
Okay.
This A, 1 octave lower,
Uh-huh.
vibrates at
A3.
220 times.
So half that.
And then this A up here, 880. So that's why they all sound like A, but you can hear that one sounds lower or higher than the other. And so octave, which means an eighth, but for some reason we say octave instead of eighth, is just like usually as far as we need to go in piano. Because look, if you go past an octave, the next thing is a ninth.
Okay.
Well, that's the same thing as a second, isn't it? Because it's still a C and a D.
It's just an octave apart.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so, okay, now I'm going to let me write this stuff down because this, I hope I don't talk too much and make this just like more confusing. But so, the most consonant interval would be a 1th, but we don't say 1th, just like we don't say octave, we say unison. In piano, we can't produce unison because we can only play 1 C5 at a time, for example. So if I said and you sang at the same time as me, that would be a 1th, but we call it unison. We're
Okay.
singing in unison. So if you wanted to play unison using a piano, you would have to have more than 1 piano in the room.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
And so intervals are either dissonant or consonant. And I say unison is the most consonant interval we have. It's like super consonant, really, which is not a real term, but I always kind of like to think of it that way. And then we have something called inversions. To invert an interval is to like turn it upside down. You can figure out the inversion of any interval by subtracting from 9. And so if you think, what's the inversion of a octave? 9 minus 8 is 1. So the inversion of and I'll just write oct here. You'll remember what octave is, right? The inversion of an octave is unison. And so let's flip the screen again. You can't really see on piano, but if I had 2 C's that I could play at the same time here that were both C5, that would be unison. And then if I took one of the C's and popped it up an octave higher, that would be an octave.
Okay.
So both unison and octave are like super consonant, the most consonant you could get. Then if we move on to seconds, would you say that sounds dissonant or consonant?
Dissonant?
Very dissonant, right? What would the inversion of a second be?
The inversion of a second?
Mm-hmm.
1?
9 minus 7 is
2.
2, right. So a second
Okay.
and a seventh are
Okay.
inversions of each other. So if you have, instead of playing the C here, you pop it up an octave higher, that's the inversion.
Okay.
So seconds and sevenths, I always like to say, are sort of super consonant, or dissonant, sorry. Does it what I'm saying make any sense, or is it just like nonsense so far?
No, I gotcha.
So super dissonant, super consonant, again, these terms are not real terms,
Right.
but it's just like helpful to remember. I just think this is so interesting. What's the inversion of a third going to be? 9 minus
6.
3. Right. So third and sixth. Look, it's a pattern. What? And so third, C and E is like the easiest to conceive of probably. What will we do to invert the interval? Take the C, pop it up an octave higher, and you get a 6.
Okay, because you got 3 and 6.
So 1, 2, 3.
Uh-huh.
And then if we put it up here, use the other C, turn the interval upside down, which is to invert. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, okay.
So third or sixth. And you can hear they also share the same quality. I kind of like to say we just could call this consonant, because like it's pretty sweet sounding, isn't it? It's pretty consonant. The farther back in history you go, the less consonant these middle intervals are. But to our ears in the 21st century, we hear so many crazy things in our music. This sounds very consonant to us. Then we have fourths. What would the inversion of a fourth be? 9 minus 4 is
5.
right. And
Yeah.
so these, I just say, are dissonant. Now that is a little bit controversial because again, the farther back in history you go, these were considered to be pretty dissonant, but they're not really that dissonant now, but kind of. So here's a fourth. If you invert and put the C up here, you can
1,
hear
2, 3, 4, 5. Yep.
you can hear they share the same quality though, right? So
Right.
like this chart kind of can make sense when you hear second, seventh, unison,
Third.
octave,
Yeah.
third,
3,
sixth,
6.
fourth, fifth. You can hear how they each of the little pairs, the inversions of each other, they have a similar
Right.
quality.
So this would be 4 fifths, right?
Well, you only played one pitch the first time, and an interval measures the distance between two pitches.
Right.
So you always have to be playing two pitches.
So it would be
Yes. Yes. And so fourths, sometimes they're called like French horn fourths or like hunting fourths because like they use that interval during fox hunts in Europe a long
okay.
time ago. And fifths are often called open fifths because we're so used to hearing a third in the mix. If we have a fifth, because that's what a chord is a root third fifth. So when you leave out the third, for our Western civilization trained ears, the fifths sound hollow and empty in the middle. So we call them open fifths. And like if you're composing, you're actually not allowed to include consecutive fifths unless you're like trying to make like a certain effect, like for a very short part of the piece, because the sound is so distinctive.
So you have to. So you couldn't do. And then here you'd have to go like. Is that right?
That's still parallel fifths because you're still playing two fifths in a row.
in the same octave.
It doesn't matter what the octave is.
Okay.
What matters is you're playing a fifth, and then you're playing another.
Oh, so I couldn't do a second fifth. Okay. So it'd be like a fifth and then maybe a fourth or something.
And fourths are called perfect fourths because look, there's no black key, so you can't like make a minor fourth.
Okay. Yep.
Anyways, we won't talk too much more about that. But so then over here, let's see. So we have two really types of intervals. We have harmonic intervals and we have melodic.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Melodic intervals. Harmonic intervals are two pitches sounded simultaneously or at the same time, which forms a harmony. And so that looks like this. Two pitches sounded simultaneously to form a harmony. Melodic intervals are two pitches sounded consecutively consecutively, which forms a melody line. There are no exceptions to these rules. So this is a melody when you have one pitch sounding and then another pitch sounding and then another pitch sounding. That's what forms a melody line. You cannot have two pitches.
Okay.
And both pitches are part of the melody line.
Because that's harmony.
Because that's a harmony, yeah. And so those are the two types of intervals. So you can play any of these numbers as either a harmonic interval or a melodic interval.
Okay.
If you have melodic intervals, in addition to thinking it's melodic and which number is it, you also have to add one more descriptor, which is direction, because melodic intervals must always move. Your two options for direction are, music can only move in 3 directions in music, right?
Right.
So they are
Up, down, or repeat.
Right.
Or the same.
And so the direction has to be either ascending or
Descending.
descending. And so when you're playing a scale, you're playing a series of consecutive ascending melodic seconds. Does that make sense? And then as you see in your piece here, the reason we're talking about this, the left hand is playing what type of intervals?
Melody. Harmony.
Harmonic intervals.
Okay.
What is the number that you would need to say? A harmonic, what, third, a harmonic fifth, a harmonic second? What intervals are those? And you can tell, just like you can count on the keys, you can count on the staff. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You count the lines and spaces.
Okay.
Or you could play it if you weren't sure and you wanted to double check G and D and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
So those are harmonic.
Okay. That's 5 too. Yeah. And then the next one would be, it's just 5 again. Okay. I see.
So do you remember how I said this arrangement is not well crafted?
Uh-huh.
And do you remember how I said writing parallel fifths, which is consecutive fifths, is against the rules when you're composing?
Yes.
The left hand of this song is entirely, almost without exception, except for right here, parallel fifths.
Yeah.
And part
They
of the
are, aren't
problem
they?
with piano, when you have parallel fifths, like you were noticing, you have to leap. You can't really do anything but leap to play parallel fifths. It sounds really clunky and awkward. We will make a few changes like as we go along, like we talked about. But anyways, just so you understand, does that make sense?
Yes. Now, if you ask me to explain it,
Okay,
I can.
yeah.
But I follow you.
This is like hard to understand. I hope I'm explaining it okay-ish.
I'll rewatch this too.
Yeah, that's
So,
why I'm like, maybe we should.
Especially as I do my work this week, I'll watch.
Yeah, like you could honestly even just listen since you've seen the visuals. But let's see. There were some other things I wanted to say about intervals, but maybe I can ask you here. Let's switcheroo and let's see if you can demonstrate what we just talked about. So, can you play an ascending melodic second on the piano?
An ascending melodic second.
Yes.
So
Yeah, take your time. Read all the notes. So
ascending is up
melodic means 2 pitches sounded.
consecutively. So it'd be
And how can you tell if you're playing a second, that the pitches are 2 apart?
let's say that again, I'm sorry.
Like, how can you tell it's a second? Because right here you played this and then you played this. Is that a second?
I don't know.
1, 2, 3.
Oh, then it would be
It's an ascending melodic third. Yes, that's it. Yep.
Okay.
Could you play a harmonic third?
Both
Yeah!
harmonies together in
How
the
about
song
a
would be one.
descending melodic fourth?
Descending melodic four.
Somebody said that's confusing.
So that'd
It
be
is.
like a descending melodic four.
A descending melodic fourth. Ah! You did it! That was right! Good job! And so then if you look at the paper, is the right hand part playing melodic intervals or harmonic intervals?
Melodic.
Yes. And typically in piano, which hand plays the melody?
The right.
Yes. So doesn't that make sense that the right hand would have harmonic intervals and the left hand would, or sorry, melodic intervals, and that the
Alright.
left hand would have harmonic intervals?
Yes.
It does make sense. So the person who arranged this song did know that much at least.
Okay.
And then, what was the other thing I was just going to ask you? Okay, so on the paper, can you point at a harmonic fifth on the paper? Your sheet music?
Two pitches simultaneously.
Yes.
Um,
That are a fifth apart, and you can count the lines and spaces just like you could count the keys to determine the distance.
well, that's a fifth apart.
Yes. And is it harmonic?
Two pitch simultaneous. I don't know if there's one. Oh wait.
No, just think through the question. Are the pitches sounded simultaneously? Are they a harmonic interval, those two pitches you just pointed at? Do you play both keys at the same
Yes,
time?
you do.
Yes. Yes. So what you pointed at is a harmonic fifth. You were
Okay.
correct. Can you point at another harmonic
That
fifth?
would be like that.
Yes. So on the paper, can you point at another harmonic fifth somewhere?
There.
Yes. How about
Which
a...
would be this.
And how about an ascending melodic third? Do you see an ascending melodic third somewhere on the paper?
Maybe these are descending.
Are they descending?
Well, these would be because they're
How
not
many?
5 apart. They're 1, 2, 3 apart.
Are they harmonic or melodic intervals that you're pointing at right now?
Those are harmonic.
And do harmonic intervals have direction? If they are sounded simultaneously, can they have direction between the two pitches?
Oh, I
Because
see
that's
what
all we
you're
can measure
saying.
is the distance
Yeah.
between two pitches.
So
No, the
would
answer is
be-
no.
But that would be a third.
That would be a harmonic third, right?
And that
Mhm.
would be a harmonic third, and that would be a harmonic third.
Yes, 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 you're so good, yeah.
Let's see.
But do you see an ascending melodic third?
Oh, okay. You said A or D ascending?
Ascending.
Ascending.
Mm-hmm.
Third. Here.
Yes. And what about the first interval the right hand plays at the beginning of the song?
The first interval that the right hand plays.
At the very beginning of the song. So it's going to be the distance between the first two pitches the right hand plays.
Okay, so that would be here.
Yep.
Okay.
What's the number for that interval there that the right hand plays? Is it a second, a third, a fourth?
Well, it's a quarter note with.
That's rhythmic.
Okay.
We're talking about distance between two pitches. So between the first two pitches the right hand plays,
It would just be 1. No, 2. Be 2.
1, 2, 3. So
Okay.
ascending,
1, 2, 3.
melodic, ascending, melodic. One, 2, 3. An ascending, melodic,
Pitch.
third.
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 Okay, I see. Because 1, 2, 3, and it's ascending. 2, 3.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Now could you find an ascending melodic second somewhere in the sheet music? Last one, I promise. I feel like your brain is probably like tired by now.
A second. So that's an 8th note.
So the rhythmic values have no bearing on the
Ascending.
interval.
So what was the question again? I'm sorry.
An ascending melodic second. Ascending melodic second.
Well, right here would be 1, wouldn't it?
Are the pitches ascending?
Yeah. It's going from B to
play C.
Yes. Oh, this one here. These two.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I thought you were pointing at these two. Yes,
No.
that's exactly right. Good. So you can see the melodic motif opens with an ascending third, followed by an ascending second, and then the next interval is
A descending first.
second,
Second.
because you're going from C to B.
Okay.
One,
yeah. One,
two.
two. I
Remember,
got
on
you.
piano, you cannot play a first, which
Right,
is
you
not
have
called
to
a
count
first, but a
that
unison.
and that. I got you. Okay.
And then, I did want to tell you just like a couple more little things because of some of the questions you asked, which do have bearing on this song. Here, hold this maybe.
Okay.
So later, not in level 2 that you're getting ready to go into, you'll learn not just about the numbers, second, third, fourth, fifth. You'll also learn major or minor. So this is a minor second because this is a half step from one key to the very next key. This is also a half step. So a half step is moving from one key to the very next key on piano, whether white or black.
Okay,
Doesn't
so it
matter.
doesn't matter. So it could be this, or this.
And remember how I said to make a pitch sharp, you raise the pitch 1/2 step. So if you have an F, to make the F sharp, you raise the pitch 1/2 step and play
Okay.
this black key. Does that make sense?
Uh huh.
If you wanted to play F flat, you would lower the pitch
Go
1/2
down one.
step and play this.
So so here, this would be it. But if I wanted to make it flat from here, I'd go here.
Yes. And so this, I'll write down on here again. So sharp means to raise the pitch 1/2 step,
Okay.
and flat is to lower 1/2 step, and natural means to cancel a sharp or flat, either way. So you just play whatever the natural version. So if you're playing in this key and all the F's are supposed to be sharp and you see a natural sign, you play F natural
Okay.
instead of F sharp.
F sharp.
hmm
Okay.
And so this is also in level 2, you're going to be like, this is all interval stuff. This is about sharps and flats. So there's another word you have to know called enharmonic. Enharmonic means pitches always have more than one name. This was from the other week. So that means this, like we said, is F, natural, usually. But sometimes you might be playing in a key that has no F.
Okay.
Or you might be playing in a key that has no C or whatever. So this key we usually call E, but sometimes this key could be called F flat.
Okay.
Same pitch, different name, based on the function of the pitch within the framework of the key signature or the tonality that you're in. Does that make any sense at all?
Nope, not a bit.
Oh no, I'm sorry. But it's kind of like how, like, your parents probably call you Kyle. If you have a niece or nephew, they probably call you Uncle Kyle. Like, your girlfriend probably doesn't always call you Kyle. She probably calls you some other name, right? And so, like, you have different names based on your function in the relationship at the time. But you're still the same person. And so this pitch can sound really different depending on how the pitch is functioning within the key that you're in.
Okay.
So, like, what you asked before, if you're in the key of C, C is the first step of the scale, D is the second, E is the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and then when you get back to here, it's another C. So really every scale in Western civilization has 7 steps, and we always repeat
The next one, back to
the
C.
initial pitch, which is called the tonic pitch. And so major keys, it's like this is where all of this comes together. In Western civilization, we use Roman numerals to indicate not the steps of the scale, but the chord progression within the scale, which is based on the steps of the scale. And so, like, the key of C is easy to think of in piano because you have, like, all white keys from C to C, right? So these are the pitches, and these pitches will sound the same no matter what key you're in theory, but it will seem like they don't. The name of the first step of the scale is called the tonic pitch, And the three most important steps and chords in any scale are the 1, which is the tonic, the 4, which is called the subdominant, and then the 5, which is called the dominant. The others are a lot less important. So does that make
1, 3, and 4.
1, 4, 5?
Okay, 1, 4, 5. So tonic, subdominant, and dominant.
And you see the Roman numerals are capitalized because these are all major keys. The lowercase Roman numerals indicate minor keys. Okay, does that make sense?
I got that. Yep.
And so if we go back to intervals, because this is sort of like the transition point between intervals and key signatures and scales, etc. If you have a triad, you have 3 pitches, all a third apart. Third, third. Because again, we can
Line,
only
space,
measure the
line.
distance between 2 pitches. So this is a third, and
there's
this
one
is a
in
third.
between them.
But we're playing all 3 simultaneously, like this. That is called a triad, and every triad, which means 3 pitches stacked in thirds, has a name. So in the key of C, the 1 chord, which we would say 1 chord, not first chord, and we would write a Roman numeral, not an Arabic numeral. Arabic numerals are only for intervals
Okay.
and inversions. We have this pattern. This is a major third. On the bottom, capital M3. Major third, because we have half step, half step, half step, half step. That 4 half steps equals a major third. Whereas if you lower the third, what we were talking about before, like this, you change and you have 1, 2, 3. Did I write that right? 1, 2, 3, 4 versus 1, 2, 3 half steps is a minor third. And you can hear the difference in the way they sound, can't you? Most people will say like a major chord sounds happy and a minor chord sounds sad or bright versus dark. That's not really true, because depending on the context, you could hear some composers and you would swear you're in a major key or minor key when you're in the opposite. So pitches and intervals can be very deceptive sometimes, but that's kind of a rule of thumb. Happy, bright, sad, and dark and moody, right?
Okay.
And so that's what I mean by lower the third. Technically, you're not just lowering the third, you're switching from a major third on the bottom here, and then a 1, 2, 3 minor third on top. When you lower the third, it flip-flops, because this is a major chord here. But a minor chord, I'll put up here, it flip-flops, and you have minor third on the bottom, major third on top.
Okay.
Have I like totally lost you?
Yep.
Sorry. Oh no.
That's
Okay.
all right.
Well, should I just stop there?
That was like physics back in college.
Yeah.
Look at all those equations up there.
Yeah.
Got a bunch of variables. We have to figure out what the variables are.
Oh no. But so these 3 chords, my point was, these are all major chords. This
Okay.
one. These are all going to be like this. And then if you lower the third, you get these minor chords as part of the key that you're in.
Okay.
So I don't know. Maybe watch this again to see if it makes any sense. And I'll probably have to explain it many times and in many different ways. That's like what had to happen for me before I understood it. So honestly, like in college, you should enter as a music major with like a pretty good understanding of all of this, what is called music theory. And I had 10 years of piano lessons before going to college and taking my first what's called Harmony 1 or Theory 1 class. And I was like, this is going to be a piece of cake for me, because I've had 10 years of piano lessons. I already know every scale, every major scale, every minor scale, all of the chords, all the chord inversions, and arpeggios. I'm going to understand this so easily. This will be like a cakewalk of a class. Boy, was I wrong. It was so hard. And like, you have to take 4 theory classes usually in college to be a music major. I knew many people who had to switch majors because they could not pass the music theory classes, and people who had to take some of them even 3 times before they could pass.
Yeah.
It's really hard to understand. And so I passed every time, but I never really felt like I understood it till when I went for my master's degree. The first class you have to take is called Graduate Theory Review. It's like all 4 classes smushed into one semester because you've already gone over it once, but it's like, hey, you might have had a break since your bachelor's degree. That class, I was like, I understand, and I feel like I never did till then.
It's comprehensive.
So I'm just saying that's a lot of time and effort that I had to go through to understand. So I just explained this to you in 30 minutes. You're not going to really understand it.
No.
I'm going to have to say it over and over again, and you're going to have to keep just like somehow you just have to hear the information and play the songs and try to make sense of it, and over time the truths will reveal themselves to you if you keep trying.
Okay.
Any questions?
No, I don't. I'll review everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a
That's
lot.
okay. It is a
But
lot.
you wanted to do a song that's above your level, so.
And it's an introduction to it. So.
Yeah, but it's great because this is stuff you'll be starting on in level 2 and then level 3.
Okay.
So having like a preview is kind of nice, even
Yep.
though it might not all make sense.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I love that right there. That made so much sense. And